Sometimes we need that. I found the report that was shared with us based on a commission on Parkland extremely informative. And while, you don't necessarily always want to talk about everything everybody does because that actually jeopardizes your ability to work well. But I really came away thinking, if the public was more aware of the things that broke down or were absent there, perhaps they would feel a lot easier with what we do because we have in place many of the things that they were concerned about. I'm sorry, I'm going to be taking a little time here, but there were a number of issues. Almost every school I know of has a single place of entry during the school days. It's locked. It's under observation. You have to check in. They had that. But they also had a place in the school sometime later in the afternoon when athletes would be going in and out of the building, which was unlocked and unsupervised. It was that entrance that the young man used to come into the building. A security guard, not armed, but a security guard, actually observed the young man entering the building, made a radio call, and said he's carrying a rifle case. And yet, there was not an adequate response. We talked about hear something, say something. We practice that. We preach that. We endorse that and encourage it. But apparently they had two administrators that had multiple opportunities where kids were reporting things that had been said to them and nothing was done. So, we're talking about some major breakdowns. And we're not necessarily talking about the FBI or the law enforcement. We're talking about internal stuff that's supposed to work as a first line of defense. Another thing that happened in the school, well, two other things. We have cameras, they had cameras, but their cameras on 3-minute delay. In other words, what you're looking on is what happened 3 minutes ago. Consequently, when the police ultimately came into the building, which was somewhat delayed, and they looked for where these people would show up, what they saw was 3 minutes old, and the guy was already at McDonald's, literally. Their internal communications. We have a system here wherein not only within the building, but district-wide, everybody knows whether there's a situation that warrants a lockdown, and we practice lockdowns. Apparently they did not, although the ones on the first floor did. Kids on the second and third floor, teachers on the second and third floor were actually unaware of what had happened on the first floor. Most of the casualties that occurred on the third floor. And I thought initially that it was a consequence of a strategy by the gunman, that he had intentionally pulled a fire alarm. That was not the case. What had happened was that the smoke generated by gunfire, even though you have smokeless powder, gives you an indication of how many rounds were discharged. That smoke set off the smoke alarm. Without any indication of what was going on, those kids on the second and third floor emptied out into the hall, and they became a target-rich environment, and that's where the majority of those things happened. There were umpteen opportunities to stop this before it ever happened, and it didn't happen. I mean, the opportunities weren't taken advantage. Certainly, the attack took place. The young man that was responsible for the attack had a long record of violations and bizarre behavior, so much so that he had actually been suspended from school. And he was to be arrested as trespassing if he showed up. But there was no dispersion of the information to the people who would be there on the front line, if you will, to be able to recognize them and so forth. The last thing that they mentioned was the school has different rights as far as searching an individual or their property than law enforcement. The law enforcement is much stricter. They have to have reasonable cause to do so in the school. Apparently, the security guard could have confronted the young man as he went into the building. And they say, well, he wasn't armed. The security guard wasn't armed. Well, that's true. But the rifle was also secure inside of a rifle case, and he wouldn't have been able to get it out fast enough to shoot him. But he did not confront him. We have multiple opportunities for taking care of this. We hopefully, I know we have things in place, and hopefully they would work.
Thank you, Gary. Dan?
In the spirit of time, and I hear small children back there, so I'm going to save my comments to the end of the program.
Thanks. This is a unique meeting we have each year because it's about recognizing people truly meeting the standards of the teaching profession, and we're also taking the time to say goodbye to some retirees. I think it's also important to note that the work we do with people here in this district as employees doesn't happen by accident. We have a great record over the years of having a budget that's very stable, that doesn't create turmoil within our employees. We have a great record of adding things to this process. This year we got to see actual pictures of folks that were retiring, so we get a better sense of by name and face of who they are, and we really appreciate these types of improvements. Also noteworthy, on the tenure recommendations, a lot of the administrators, and a lot of them are standing in the back of the room, they continually get better at explaining and summarizing how these people are teaching and what they're doing. And that means a lot. I go through every one of these the weekend before to make sure that I have a better sense of what's going on, what we're improving. You can see clearly over the years when folks join, sometimes they're not perfect. You can definitely see improvement throughout the year on things that indicate a lot of coaching and mentorship and just professional growth here. And so what we're about at Shen is we're about the kid business. We're about great educational opportunities. And one of the key underpinnings is ensuring that our employees, both teachers and non-teachers, are taken care of, and this becomes a better environment each year. So I would like to say these things don't happen by accident. This is a great celebration of these folks by name and what they've done, and I look forward to recognizing them in that way, but I also want to recognize the process and the people behind it. So thank you very much. At this point, we'll turn it over to public comments. If we've got some students that were planning to make some comments, it might be a good time to head up. But this is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Education. Are there any residents in attendance? If so, please complete the comment form. The board will now address specific comments, but ask for your name and address in the event follow-up is necessary. We remind residents that the public comment portion of our meeting is only one item in the long agenda. We therefore ask that each speaker be as succinct as possible. The remarks be limited to 2 or 3 minutes. We also expect that residents speak in a respectful and courteous manner as to model proper civility and decorum for our students. Residents may also contact the board via email at bo@shenendehowa.org. All questions come to the Office of Public Information Officer and are shared with the board and our superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions, concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions, concerns addressed by the superintendent and or designee. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Miranda Curto. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jing Tong. We are both representatives to the Board of Education from the SFA Senate. So this is going to be one of our last meetings here with the Board of Education, and I'm very sad. Good evening to all the teachers who are here today. We are here to speak about upcoming events for the SFA Senate. Our last event is going to be on May 24th. It's going to be the Day of the Arts, the second annual Day of the Arts. It's just a day where the SFA Senate puts up some decorations, hosts some musical performances. We have an art display going on in the library. That's the plan. It's scheduled for May 24th. It's going to be an all-day thing. During lunch periods, kids can come into the library and listen to some musical performances, take a look at the student art that we produce, and sometimes we can even, if we have the opportunity, we can also put up pieces of literature that students have produced, and overall it's just a day to celebrate the arts in the Shen community. And then this past week we had elections for our next Senate. We're very excited to see what the Senate will do and to improve next year, and our first meeting will be after break for that Senate. And without further ado, we have 2 special guests with us today. Our fellow officers, Hannah Butts, our parliamentarian, and Michael Wilholt, who is our president. So they're here to talk about our recently passed Senate resolution.
Hi guys. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Michael Wilholt, and I'm the president of the SFA Senate for the 2019-2020 school year.
The 2018-2019
Right,
school
yeah,
year.
yeah,
We're kicking him out after this. I'm Hannah. I'm the parliamentarian.
And today we're here to talk about Senate Resolution number 2, which Hannah's going to be passing out. So this is derived from a high school procedure that was established on January 2nd, 2019, which talked about safety and precaution. The idea behind it was that more bathrooms were going to be closed, there were going to be monitors stationed outside the bathrooms, and there was going to be a sign-in and a sign-out procedure. And this is in response, of course, to safety mainly, but it was also in response to the vaping epidemic. So a lot of students looked at this procedure that was implemented at the high school level and had a couple of concerns with it. So they came to the Senate. We had 642 students actually sign a petition, which was presented to Mr. Agostinoni. And the petition talked about reaching a compromise about this bathroom issue that is going on. So the Senate hosted a coffee talk on January 18th and also hosted a speak out on February 13th, and we had high attendance at both events. We saw a lot of people come, we saw a lot of participation, a lot of people were very interested in talking about the topic. So from there, we worked with the committee. We formed a committee to discuss what we were going to do in response to the vaping epidemic, what was going to happen, how could the Senate address it, stuff like that. We met over Regents Week, we met before school, after school, and we came up with some solutions. So from there, that is where Senate Resolution 2 came up. It's simply a recommendation to the Board of Education. The last resolution came in 2014, and it was about late buses. So this is just the second one that the Senate has had in its 50-year history, but it is obviously really important. And in this resolution, we call for working with the Student Athletic Advisory Council to create a unified message against vaping, not just at the high school level, but at the middle school level and in the elementary school level. We have worked with Dr. Robinson about possibly changing Board of Ed policy 7320, which is talking about tobacco, alcohol, other drugs and substances. Yep. And we also, inside of this, talk about education and stuff like that and how we can deter people from vaping. It's not, a vaping method. Let me get on to that, actually. So what you also see, the main part of this resolution is a fly sense detector system, and this fly sense detector system is in charge of kind of understanding where there's a vape in the bathroom. So it's just a detector. It is not at all anything that is monitoring what the students are saying. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever. It is just a safety precaution. And the idea that the company had was, look, we're here to help students and deter them from vaping. We're not here to catch them from vaping. So we actually met with the CEO of the company on March 12th. Derek Peterson is the CEO of this company. Mr. A, Mrs. Salaker, Mr. West all met, and we sat down and we talked about what exactly we were going to do. And then we also met with another company, Halo, on March 29th. And I met with Mr. A, Mr. Smith, Ms. Lennon McMahon, Mr. West, Ms. Salaker, and Ms. Wetmore as well to discuss what was going on with that idea. So 2 different vaping detecting systems. From there, I met with Dr. Robinson, Mr. A, and Dr. Wood on March 18th, and we talked about the resolution and what the Senate's approach was. And this comes after the Senate voted on the resolution and approved the resolution on March 11th. So the resolution, the hopes of the resolution is that we are going to get approximately 4 Halo systems and 1 fly sense system to test them out and see if they do work for vaping detection.
Please. Thank you. I would like to commend you on the approach you took here. You did it the way I think is the appropriate, responsible, relevant way. You have conversations with everybody involved, and you bring it to the right people in the buildings and the right people in the district, and you brought it to us. And I think you've managed this and led this in an extremely responsible way. So we thank you very much for doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
One quick question for you. Did you, as with anything, I mean, this is a fabulous thing that you're doing. Did you have adversity against it? Did you have any adversity? And how did you handle it?
So that's a really good question. To be honest, when this was first presented to the Senate, I'm not going to lie, Hannah and I had scrambled over break along with the committee to try and find a solution because we knew that this was time sensitive. So when we first presented it to the Senate, I'm going to be quite frank, we were not fully prepared. And because of that, we got a lot of pushback from students. Students rightfully were questioning what the system is about. Students were unsure. and it didn't end up looking like the Senate was going to pass a resolution at first.
Well, and also many students were upset that they hadn't heard about this months in advance. Like, they didn't know necessarily about all the committee meetings we had had and all the other meetings that we had had before we brought it to the Senate. And so therefore they felt this was a very big thing to bring before them.
Right.
And so we got a lot of criticism and questions and whatnot.
But what we did in response to that is Hannah and I, as well as many other Senate members on the committee, met with almost every single Senate member and talked to them about the idea. 2 weeks later, we presented it back to the Senate. And
We also met a lot more with administration that would be involved to try to figure out more logistical things,
Yes.
which a lot of the students had questions on, and we couldn't really answer yet because we didn't know exactly how we would be able to do this with the authorities, so that we had to talk to them a lot.
And 2 weeks after we first presented it, it was passed by the Senate by a vote of 73 to 12, with unanimous approval from both faculty members and administration.
Great job.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well prepared for real life.
We now move towards the resident portion. Go ahead, please. We can take that.
Good evening. My name is Megan De La Rosa, and I'm here tonight as the president of the Shenendehowa Teachers Association. I appreciate the opportunity to acknowledge some of the special guests in the audience this evening, and I would like to thank the members of the board for taking time out of your meeting to publicly recognize a very large number of folks who are reaching some significant work-related milestones. All of these folks have answered the call to serve, and as public servants, it's very uncommon for them to toot their own horns. More often, they overlook themselves in the service of others, but not tonight. Over the past several years, more and more of our prospective retirees have gone the route of quietly riding off into the sunset for a number of different personal reasons. If you're here tonight, I want you to know that I respect your choices to do so, and at the same time, I feel compelled to publicly thank you for your dedication and commitment to the Shenendehowa community and the education community at large. So in balancing that dilemma, I will recognize you collectively. Collectively, our 13 STA retirees have dedicated approximately 350 years of service to our Shenendehowa students, families, and colleagues. And several of you actually worked elsewhere prior to coming to Shen. I personally have had the privilege of working with many of you over the years. And I can say without question that your absences will truly be felt. You are some of the most caring, considerate, compassionate individuals I have had the privilege of knowing and working with. You've worked with our neediest, our most fragile, our most promising, our most challenging, our most appreciative students, and every student in between. You've mentored our colleagues officially and unofficially. You've served our colleagues as STA representatives at all levels. You've lent your professional opinions and expertise to countless committees and initiatives. You've given of yourselves time and time again. In short, you have embodied what it means to be a public servant. And now you will give yourselves fully to an endless list of new and exciting opportunities. And then at the other end of the career spectrum tonight, I'm equally thrilled to acknowledge our 28 STA members who will be recommended for tenure. Again, I can say I've had the privilege of getting to know so many of you over the few years that you've just been here at Shen. Whether it was right from the start at new teacher orientation, working with you on some personal endeavors you were pursuing, helping you navigate the ins and outs associated with some exciting life changes, answering your questions, working with you on STA committees, and a whole host of other experiences. You too have answered the call to serve, and we appreciate that. Like our retirees, you are working with our students across a wide range of spectra, including but not limited to what I believe to be an unprecedented number of special education teachers. In addition to our special education teachers, we're also celebrating tonight the professional accomplishments of several core area teachers and a wide array of teachers who help our students express themselves and excel in areas beyond the core academic areas. And like our retirees, many of you have come to us from other districts or even other fields, and we're so thrilled to have you now firmly established in our professional community. So I would again like to thank the board for this opportunity to publicly acknowledge and celebrate our 2019 STA retirees and tenure recipients. To our retirees, on behalf of all of the members of the Shenendehowa Teachers Association, we thank you for your countless hours of tireless dedication to our district, our students, and our organization. We truly and sincerely wish you all the best in your upcoming retirement. And to our tenure recipients, on behalf of the STA, we thank you for all that you've already contributed to our district, our students, and our organization. And we look forward to continuing our work together for many, many years to come. We wish you also our most heartfelt congratulations. Thank you.
I don't see any other residents. If not, let's go over to Superintendent's report. Go ahead, please, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few announcements. And first of all, I want to comment that Mr. Stevenson mentioned hearing the baby in the back. That's music to my ears. So that's one, that's like job security, more kids coming. And two, but more importantly, it's the recognition that as a society we're vibrant anytime we have young people in our midst. So tell the baby back there, keep doing what you're doing. Keep reminding us of why we're here. Also, I'd just like to offer, we have some recognitions tonight of our tenure recipients and our retirees. And was mentioned, we also have two of our administrators who are being acknowledged by their colleagues in the region for their tremendous work. And I would like to, at this point, ask both of them to come forward and have Mr. Presley present to the first one to Dr. Elizabeth Wood, who was recognized by CASA as the 2019 CASA Excellence in District Administrative Leadership Award. So, Dr. Wood. And the second one, Mr. Agustinoni, and some of you may wonder that he's pretty new to Shen, but Mr. Agustinoni came from Maple Hill, which was the #1 small school in the area prior to coming to Shen. That's why we hired him. Figured if he could do it in the small school, he could do it in the big school. So Mr. Agustinoni was 2019 CASA Principal of the Year. So congratulations. And Mrs. Bush will be doing a formal recognition of our retirees and our tenure recipients. However, I would like to offer my comments by simply saying thank you for your tremendous service. For those who are looking for the runway to land and those who are looking for the runway to take off, regardless, the runways here at Shen, and be it 3 years in or 35 years and looking to move out, we appreciate your tremendous service to our students. Every day matters in their lives, and so I want to say thank you for your tremendous service and all the best for your time here at Shen and all the best for your retirees. And just a comment, I just saw someone who recently just retired at the Y, and so she's always joking to me. She was like, you know, the difference between you and I now, you have to rush home and take a shower, go to work. I was going to take a nap. and so I guess I'm looking forward to that too, to working out and going home and taking a nap. So life is grand on the other side of work. So congratulations to you there. Just a couple other things I want to acknowledge. Mr. Delato spoke about school safety, and I really want to say that because we have been unfortunate. Sometimes we've had people come to the board meeting and offer less than positive comments because they really don't understand what we're doing. A tremendous amount of time and effort is taken to ensure that our student staff are safe when they're here in school. And while we take a tremendous amount of time, we're never in a position that we think we've done enough. We're always trying to figure out what can we do next. And so just example, I think it's either today or tomorrow at the high school, they're doing countless drills to say, what happens if emergency happens during lunchtime? When you have 300 kids in the cafeteria, what do you do then? And so they're going through those, and I know my daughter said to me, Dad, they're going to do like 4 drills today. It's going to be an awful day. And I was like, honey, I'd rather have the awful day on the drill day than an awful day on the real day. And so I share that with you because sometimes as parents and sometimes as a faculty and staff, We don't have that appreciation, but we do those things so in the most inconvenient times, so that if something happened, we can react accordingly. So I just want to acknowledge that piece of it. The second acknowledgement, Mr. DeLallo mentioned some of the work that myself and Dr. Wood particularly we have been doing across the state on ensuring that we have equitable opportunities and outcomes for all students. And it's beyond Shen. I think it would be selfish for me to say if you have a talent, you only use your talent at home. I think part of our piece, you use your talent and share it wherever you can. To whom much is given, much is required. And so part of that whole mantra is to figure out how do we, in fact, change the quality of education across New York State and, quite frankly, try to influence the country. And so we're doing it. We did it locally, and we're going to be at Schoharie County School Boards. It's a county of school boards. It's our second time trying with Schoharie County School Boards. It's a community that thought, this is not for us, but they realized it is for us. In terms of how we look at the world and look at where our kids are going in the world. So we're at Schoharie on Thursday, just to give some sense of those kind of things that we do beyond our work here at Shen. The third recognition is that on Saturday, there will be the Shen Foundation Green and White Gala event. I think they may have closed the ticketing today. But however, I'm sure if you show up, they'll be more than happy to take your money. It's on Saturday at 6 o'clock at the Hilton Garden. It's a great event, a great opportunity for us to come together as a school community and fellowship and be festive. But more importantly, it's a tremendous fundraiser that puts money directly back into school initiatives. Every penny raised goes right back into respective grants that are offered to teachers, staff, or otherwise to do various things throughout the school community. So I wanted to do that. And the last piece I just want to mention, because again, I think it was some very unfair and gross criticism of the school and myself personally about how do we treat our fields. And if some of you recall, there was a ridiculous expose on Channel 6, and I say that for the media, it was a ridiculous expose on Channel 6 about how we take for granted and pesticides and things of that nature. And it was to the contrary. And right now, in case you hear the buzz saying Shen is treating their fields again, yes, we're doing it with organic fertilizer and compost tea. I have no idea what compost tea is, but it's supposed to be something very organic, treatment of our fields, and so that's going to start this week. I say that because, sometimes people don't ask questions, just make assumptions. So that's going to happen. It's a very organic way. The New York State Education Department fully approves with what we're doing. But we always take the safety of our kids first and foremost, period. Regardless of how we treat our fields, how we treat our buildings, the first thing we ask is what's going to be the impact on our students and staff who are in respective buildings. That's always the first question we have to ask and answer, and we have been doing it, and we'll continue to do it. So in case you hear some buzz about that, we will be taking this more organic treatment for our athletic fields. No pesticides. I want to emphasize that piece of it in case there's someone who wants to record this conversation, or in case Channel 6 is watching again like they did last time. No pesticides, Channel 6. Thank you. So that's the last comment I want to do, and I want to end on a very positive note. Mr. Preston said it very well. There's a lot of people that goes into the processes that make tonight happen, and I want to acknowledge one person who I know has taken a lot of painful detail with her team to make sure that tonight is a special night for our retirees and a special night for our tenure recipients. I want to thank Jill and her team, Jill Bush and her team, a lot of time to go in to try to get pictures of everyone so we can see who the people are and all these wonderful type things. It's a great effort to make sure that we acknowledge you in the way that you deserve to be acknowledged. So, Joe, thank you for your efforts on that as well. So, on that note,
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for all the folks who've dealt with my craziness in the last, probably 10 years. In addition to our teacher retirees that Megan spoke so eloquently about, we have 24 support staff that are also retiring this year. Some of them are with us tonight, and I would be remiss to not acknowledge not only the work that they've done so that our students have those opportunities and our teachers have the opportunities, and the work that they do in all our different areas. They have over 400 years of experience among those 24 in the dedication, and some have returned to substitute for us, and some we would like to rescind their retirements, but they have new grandbabies or other opportunities. So I would like to start with the
can
support
we do
staff.
tenure first?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. The people who are looking to make sure they have job security, we want to do them first.
Sorry, I didn't practice the script.
No problem.
So for tenure,
is a long process. Some of our teachers that are hired have a 3-year tenure probationary appointment, and some have a 4-year, depending on if they worked in another district. It involves observations, evaluations using the annual professional performance review, and a lot of input and a lot of professional development and professional opportunities that folks did. Tonight, I have the pleasure and the opportunity to present 28 of our teachers that have gone through that process and have been recommended by our administrators for tenure. The actual awarding of the tenure after the board approves it is September 1st, and then we have a reception, a bigger reception in October. But tonight, I'm going to ask that the folks that are going to get tenure to come up when I call their names. And all the tenure recs, as Mr. Presley said, are very comprehensive and at least 4 or 5 pages. I only pulled 1 or 2 words about each person. So there are many, many things in the tenure recs that our folks do every day in and day out. And we know that they'll continue that journey. So it's not tonight that they're going to be completed with that. So we'll start with, and if you would just come up, we'll make a whole big line and then hopefully save the applause. Heidi Brewer. Heidi was on a 3-year probationary appointment, special education at Octay in the FSD program. Many, many things about Heidi, but one of the things that stood out was powerful advocate for the students. So Heidi would be our first person. Oh, we're going to be clapping 28 times, but that's okay. Michelle Cahill. Michelle Cahill is completing a 4-year probationary appointment. She's an elementary teacher currently at Orangen in grade 3. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Andrew Hills, and she makes deep connections, and one of the things that stood out was that she revised or revitalized the Orangen theater or drama, and I think it was Once Upon a Mattress, is that?
Last year.
Cinderella.
This year.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Terrific. Thank you. Our next person, Casey Caradori. Casey is completing a 4-year probationary appointment in secondary English. She is currently at the high school. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Agustinoni and Mrs. Sherwin. She brings literature to life, and her students are always engaged in the processes. Our next person, Jessica Claremont. Jessica is completing a 3-year probationary appointment as an art teacher, currently at Gowanna. Her tenure rec was written by Robin Gories and Frank Roselli. She always has positive energy, and her students feel success in all the things that she does. Thank you for demonstrating that. Lindsay Clinton. Lindsay is completing a 4-year probationary appointment as a special education teacher, currently at Chango. Her tenure rec was written by Mrs. Karen Skarka and Renee Young. And one of the things, many, many things with Lindsay, but she is very collegial in her partnerships with staff. Eric Davenport. Eric Davenport is completing a 4-year probationary appointment as a secondary science teacher, chemistry. His tenure rec was written by Mr. Agustinoni and Mrs. Jean Lorch. He's very active in the school community. He is one of the co-advisors of the Science National Honor Society. And Eric, this was a second career for Eric, and we are very, very glad that he joined our team. Our next person, Kate Davies. Kate is completing a 4-year probationary appointment in special education at Scano. Her tenure rec was written by Jill Florio. She's professional. She always makes connections with kids. She accepts challenges and challenging students. Christopher Desario. Chris is completing a 4-year probationary appointment at the high school in special education. His tenure was written by Mr. Agustinoni and Mr. Keith Bow. He always has a calm, supportive classroom. So I'd like to come to your classroom, hang out for a while there, Chris. Okay, Suzanne Fensel. Susie, 4-year probation, completing a 4-year probationary appointment, was known as Rowland when we first hired her, so that's why I had to stick there for a second. Elementary, grade 3 at Scano. Her tenure rec was written by Jill Florio. She's a leader in Scano, and she was very active in the Scano literacy team, amongst other things. Okay, still with me? Okay. Amelia was Reynolds, now Amelia Gillis. She's 4-year probationary appointment. Secondary foreign language. She currently teaches middle school and high school Spanish. Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Sarah Chaffee recommend her for tenure, and one of the things is she establishes meaningful relationships with all of her students. Some of these you'll see as a theme, the engaged student as part of our profile of an engaged employee, and meaningful relationships. Most important in the tenure recs are some APPR scores as well. The things that stood out were the building relationships with students and keeping them going. So the next one, Elizabeth Hoffman. Elizabeth is completing a 3-year probationary appointment, special education at Gowanna in the behavior BESD class. Her tenure was written, it had to be 3 people. Robin Gories, Renee Young, and Sean Nat, so 2 of the principals. And one of the things that stood out was she's an amazing advocate for her kids. Next person, Kate Jewett. Kate is completing a 3-year probationary appointment. She is currently an elementary teacher, kindergarten at Carrigon. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Greg Wing. She's highly engaged in all school activities, and she's a strong communicator with both parents and students and staff. Jean Lagasse. Jean is completing a 3-year probationary appointment, special education at the high school. Her tenure was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mr. Bao. She's a professional learning, took many, many opportunities on professional development and shared with others, and her classroom interactions with students are always positive. Robin McKenna. Robin is completing a 3-year probationary appointment in art. She currently teaches art at the high school. Her tenure was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mr. Roselli. And that's kind of ironic because what stood out about Robin all over was the sense, her laughter. You can hear her laughter all the way down the hall. And it provides a smile on a lot of people's faces every day. She engages students and she's innovative, but I had to put that in there, Robin, because it came out loud and clear there. Nina Murillo. Nina Murillo.
That's half of the group now.
Yes. I feel like the orchestra's going to play or something. Perfect. So 4-year probationary appointment. Nina is currently a strings teacher, and she is at Aranjan, Chattacon, and Chango. She has increased the organization and the number of students that are participating in strings at the elementary school tremendously. Her tenure recommendation was written by Mr. Hills and Mr. Roselli, and we thank you for increasing those enrollments. Megan Milano. Megan is completing a 4-year probationary appointment, secondary mathematics at the high school. Her tenure rec was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Peverly. She is very innovative and uses technology and uses Google Classroom on a regular basis, so we could tap in and learn a little bit more about math if we choose to, if she gives us permission, right? Nicole Ostrander. Nicole is completing a 3-year probationary appointment, special education. She's currently in Carrigon in the Connections program. Her tenure rec was written by Mr. Greg Wing, and Nicole was instrumental in bringing the Best Buddies program to Carrigon in kind of collaboration with the Scano Best Buddies program. Which program? TST. Oh, the TST program. Okay. Are you doing the Carrigon Best Buddies too, though? Yes. Oh, okay. All right. Thought so. All right. That's okay. That's all right. Okay. Sorry about that. Jennifer Paradise. Okay. Jen is completing a 4-year probationary appointment. She is special education. She is currently at Tasago, and I have her listed as the Connections program. Mr. Pace wrote her recommendation. Jen creates and sets a high professional standards for herself and for all others, and she was instrumental in creating the Best Buddies at Tasago. Okay, Christine Petronis. Christine is completing a 3-year probationary appointment in secondary science. She currently teaches chemistry and biology. Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Lorch wrote her tenure recommendation. She uses technology in her classroom, and she expects hard work from the students, but also from herself, and she recognizes student work. Okay, our next person, Katie Pepino. Katie is completing a 4-year probationary appointment as an elementary teacher, currently at Chango in grade 3. Her tenure rec was written by Mrs. Skarka and Mrs. Strangis. Her dedication to the students and to the classroom is stellar, and she has done some co-teaching. I don't know if you're doing that that this year, but she is, okay, co-teaching. All right. Elizabeth Riley. Elizabeth Riley is currently completing a 4-year probationary appointment. She is at Orangen Special Education in the BEST class. Mr. Hills wrote her recommendation. She's also a dedicated professional that goes above and beyond for our students in the BEST program. Okay, we still have some room, a little bit of room? Okay. Daniel Schmidt. Daniel is completing a 4-year probationary appointment in language. He currently teaches high school Spanish. His tenure rec was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Chaffee. He's highly engaged, his students are highly engaged in the classroom, and he's very progressive in his work in the classroom. Emily Selman. Emily is completing a 4-year probationary appointment. Emily may have been on leave for maternity leave, right? Like in the next day or soon. So we'll give you more news on Emily when I get the information. All right, but congratulations, Emily. All right, the next one, Kate Scroy, Seagroy, 4-year, Scroy. Sorry, said it right the first time. Kate, 4-year, completing a 4-year probationary appointment. She's a music teacher, and she gets the prize for the traveling music teacher. She is traveling to 5 buildings this year, and with that, she's worked closely with the FSD program in Octay to bring her love of music to all students, but specifically the students in the FSD program with autism. Dustin Verga. Dustin is completing a 4-year probationary appointment in the area of health. He's currently at the high school. His tenure was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Rebecca Carmen. He's reflective, he's engaging, and within his health career, he's also seeking other opportunities to continue to grow professionally. Andrew Way. Andrew is completing a 3-year probationary appointment in secondary science, currently earth science. His tenure was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Jean Lorch. He uses Google Voice for communication to make positive phone calls to parents, and I thought that was pretty impressive using the technology, and apparently then your phone number doesn't show up, so have to find out more about that one. So Jordan White. Jordan is completing a 4-year probationary appointment in secondary English at the high school. Jordan's tenure was written by Mr. Augustinoni and Mrs. Kathleen Sherwin. She has a great work ethic, she's insightful, and she's involved in many, many things at the high school. And last but certainly not least, Cassandra Williams is completing a 4-year probationary appointment, special education. She's currently in the FSD program at the high school. Mr. Augustinoni and Mr. Keith Bow wrote or recommended her for tenure. And Cassandra not only has done very good things at the school, including the Shining Stars Color Guard. She was recommended by a parent for top teacher, Channel 13. Some of you have seen that, so not Channel 6. Channel 13, nominated by a parent last year and received that award. So that is our class of 2019.
Our next step is to approve these tenure recommendations. Can I get a motion, please? Mrs. Hoffman, second Mrs. Stevenson. Any comments, questions? If not, all in favor? Okay, motion passes.
You want to start
Thank you.
first?
Congratulations.
Yeah, we start this pretty around. You gotta stay still, we come together. It's easy. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
thank you
very much.
all, thank you.
Please stay for the retiree feeds and then some other refreshments.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Love the reception. So wonderful. Hey, we told them to stay calm. Oh, they threatened to cheer really loud, so I told them to. I wish I knew that. I would have encouraged them.
I don't, I did give you guys the retiree class.
I don't have wet tea.
Mine is back there.
I see it. I pulled it over. You know I got a nose for that.
Can we,
Oh.
hey, can we crack it
okay.
open?
I do,
Crack it
but,
open.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, at some point.
yes.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm like,
Okay,
You want to do that?
if we can take a minute, let me just,
thank you. It's done.
all right. At this point, thank you very much, and I would like,
Is it on?
it's on.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to take a few moments to recognize our retirees that are in the audience. We won't have as many as the tenure recs, but they do deserve, as I said, the recognition. Yes, so we'll start with the support staff, and there are, some folks are just not here tonight, but I'm going to still read to you how many years they've been with the district, and if you are here, please come on up so we can acknowledge you. So Vicki Barron, teacher aide, retiring after 15 years. James Bowleris, building custodian, retiring after 20 years. I know the next two are in the audience. John Brisson, security guard, retiring after 26 years. You must have seen John either at the high school. Okay, Marion Brisson, cleaner. Oh, good. Yes. Jim Bowleris, building custodian has been at High School West in retirement after 20 years. Marion Brisson, cleaner, retiring after 26 years. Okay, then we have Sherry Brondy. Sherry is a teacher aide from retiring after 20 years. I think Sherry's here. Catherine Conroy has been a food service helper, retiring after 11 years. Okay. Dave Derby, groundskeeper, retiring after 40 years and still with us for security. Then this year, great for their opportunity, sadly for us, we have some nurses that are retiring. Karen DePalma recently retired after 20 years. Gail Elkner, school nurse, she's retiring after 27 years. Okay. It'd be very hard to replace experience and the love and the kindness of the nurses. Thank you, Dan. Okay, Suzette Engel is retiring after 20 years as a secondary school monitor. Teresa Fortier is retiring after 22 years as an elementary classroom aide. Barbara Jones. Barbara Jones retired recently after 31 years as a bus driver. Transportation. George King, retiring after 26 years as an automotive repairer. Nancy Lawler, typist, retiring after 19 years. Noreen Loisel, elementary classroom aide, retiring after 17 years. Deborah Murphy, elementary classroom aide, retiring after 27 years. Mary Niles, another school nurse, retiring after 17 years. Mary here? Amy Ozel, secondary school monitor. John Palmer, bus monitor, 12 years in the district. Kathleen Paskey, food service helper, 22 years in the district. Rosemary Ryan, bus monitor, 24 years in the district. Kathleen Slagan, retiring after 15 years as a secondary school monitor. Richard Smith, cleaner, retiring after 14 years. and Susan Zitwer, retiring after 16 years as a teacher aide. Those are our support staff. If there was a support staff, if there's any support staff in the audience that have retired in this year that I was remiss, please see me afterwards. We'll make sure that we acknowledge you. All right. Some of the folks retired as early as September because that's, because they can retire anytime during the year, usually. We'll have you stay here as we have the teachers, all right? So we have 13 teachers that are retiring or have retired, that are retiring in June. Our first person, and let's see, they're not alphabetical, but that's okay. Kathy Craig. Kathy is retiring after 33 years of teaching in the district, and that must be an error, because we graduated the same year. Okay. The next one is Michelle Ritz, and Michelle is retiring after 28 years. She currently is at Scano in 4th grade. Anita Mott is retiring after 30 years, grade 1 at Tasago. Jerry Heller is retiring after 23 years as a social worker at High School East. John Mays, I don't believe he's here tonight, but he is retiring from technology after 32 years in the district. Mary Quinn, retiring as a school counselor from Shattuckon, and she has been with the district for 32 years. Lori Garrison, elementary teacher at Scano, retiring after 32 years. Susan Morrissey, retiring from Carrigon after 17 years as an elementary teacher. Joe Skimersky, elementary teacher at Orangen. They're 31 years in the district. Congratulations. Yeah. Gwen Smoji.
I changed my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it again next year.
We could. All right. Gwen Smoji, special education, high school, and 26 years. Mike Fear, Carrigon, grade 5, retiring after 20 years in the district. Jillian Stiles, retiring from Orangen after 16 years in the district. And Allison Edwards, retiring from the district after 29 years, and I believe that
Okay. I think we get up and...
Yeah. Before we do that, I'm so sorry. So the administrators that are retiring have been acknowledged, but not as much as they need to be. So, so my apologies to Mr. Greg Wing, who is our Carrigon principal, who's retiring in June, and Mr. Paul Ripchek, who is at the high school as an associate principal, and he is retiring in June as well. And Mr. Michael Smith is retiring from Arenda in June. So those are administrative retirees, and I will have to do a special celebration for you.
Okay. Now we...
We'll start that way. Okay. All right.
Naomi, this way.
Okay.
know. Y'all getting up there, right? Wow, it's so funny how it's viewed.
One more graduation with PJ.
Yes.
So we're going to give people a chance to clear out and.
We'll all shrink down to.
Yeah,
Are we supposed to get Todd into this, the mix? Are we supposed to get Todd onto Google?
No, we won't do it until we get down to consent. Vanessa knows.
Okay.
I have my work phone, but I have no idea what anybody's phone number is.
We had some folks, some retirees that are going to watch the
My
meeting.
phone needs me.
Do you have the list of the tenures?
I don't know, Gary.
Yeah,
I didn't pay attention to it, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I might have it.
Schedule. That's good, we're ahead of your schedule.
She's gonna say that.
That session on changing schedule for 6 to 12.
Oh my God,
Did
it's
anybody show up?
2017.
It was
Oh my God.
I wasn't a big crowd.
Okay.
But yeah. We're doing a presentation next Tuesday.
So, do we get Todd?
We will.
Was Todd able to come?
No, we will.
Vanessa is the point person for that.
Okay.
Well, we're just waiting for that point, I guess.
Take you up here.
Yep.
Unless you go down, you know what I mean? I take the airport. Yep, okay. And he was also.
My bar my dad. So, from the wind.
Okay, Mrs. Carmen, please come forward to present the Utica Mutual Safety Award.
Oh, good evening. Tonight I would like to introduce John Loffer from Utica National, who's here tonight to present the award that we are receiving again for our safety practices in the district. And as we continue to ensure the safety of our students and staff, we continue to work on how we can keep a focus on school safety. And with that, we go through a survey each year that represents various departments across the district. And in completing that, I submit to Utica National for recognition, and he's here tonight to present the award to us.
Thank you. Good evening. I am John Laufer. I work at Utica National Insurance Group, as Becky said. I'm the law school representative that covers this part of the state, and I've been working with the school for about 15 or so years now. John Fenaroli, the insurance agent from one group, could not be here tonight, but he did send his best wishes and congratulations on the receipt of the award. Our three organizations, one group, insurance agency, Utica National, and the folks at Shenendehowa, are not unlike the three legs of a tripod holding up a telescope. We all have our own talents, our own enthusiasm, our own resources that we bring to the equation. Our collective goal, the three of us, is to support the safety culture and risk management initiatives at the school to help ensure the safety of the students, the staff, the visitors, and the buildings. Utica has been insuring schools since the late 1970s. We insure about half of those in New York State. Currently, we insure 372 public school districts. 16 years ago, we launched our Safe School Excellence Award program, which is a self-assessment tool used by districts to measure their success in the many areas of loss control faced by public school districts. There are over 225 questions in the following categories. Safety policies, transportation, sexual misconduct, playground, athletics, air quality, safety committees, technology, use of facilities, foreign travel, emergency planning, construction, safety management, bullying, and concussion management. It's a pretty exhaustive list. There are 3 levels of award that we give out: titanium, platinum, and gold. Titanium is our highest level of award. If support documentation is provided in 16 categories, such as handbooks or policies and procedures, that sort of thing, a check for $500 is also given, and the award is considered to be given with honors. Over the years, we've given out almost 1,500 awards and over $475,000 in award money. Shenendehowa has received our highest level of award with honors since your first participation in 2012. Some people ask, what is your secret? How do you manage to keep things so safe and secure? I look to the following example of how I explain it. The first time I met with Al in transportation, not long after he joined the district, we spoke about benchmarking losses that occur within a bus fleet, based on how many miles you drive, how many vehicles you have, how many students you transport, things like that. That gives us, as the insurance company, the expected number of claims we expect to see, given the exposure we have out there. The expected number was 22. The school had experienced 18. So most people would be thrilled to be better than expected in the categories such as school bus safety. But instead of being comfortable at being better than expected, Al's response was, next year we'll have 14. And he was successful. It's my pleasure to present the 2019 School Safety Excellence Award Program to the Shenendehowa School District.
Here, this is the Vashana. I'll take a picture, post it on the website. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Job well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll take this. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for being proactive and providing the kind of training that was provided up in Saratoga last week. That's very helpful.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, next item is the final school budget for 2019-2020. And that is Mrs. Chase. Do we need to
No, yeah, I'll walk you through. Mr. Gilbert is coming on board right now.
This ought to be funny.
Can I no.
Can we just see his big fat head? I want to see it.
Missed us, huh? Terribly, huh?
Okay, so what am I missing here, Kelly?
We're not going to see his shining face.
No, you're not gonna see him.
Where's it? Where? So I won't necessarily walk through all the slides again. Hello, Mr. Gilbert. So Mr. Gilbert is here online. I won't walk through all the slides. I'm just going to try to highlight some of the differences since the last time we made this presentation to the board and the adoption of the state budget. So I'm going to skip through a few slides since we've seen quite of these before and actually go to right to where we start making a difference. So the last time we spoke, we have some additional revenues from the state, which I'll identify. They were about $180,000 more. Not a significant amount. So, but however, enough that we can do a few different things within the budget that has some significant impact and not have a recurring cost effect. So whenever we get quote-unquote additional funds, we try not to invest in something that we know that is going to be a constant cost going forward. So one of the things that we want to do is, and I'm going to have Dr. Wood just speak briefly, we've been talking about engaged classrooms and furnishing for that. And so one of the things we want to expand the opportunity to do some of those kind of things. and expedite that process a little bit. We were thinking maybe 3 or 4 years, and now maybe we could possibly do it in 2 years and try to get some things really going in the classroom. You want to talk about that briefly, Elizabeth?
Yes. So we've had a focus on engagement, as you're well aware, and there are many forms of engagement. Just having students intellectually engaged is a high goal and an important goal for us. Along with engagement in many classrooms comes the desire to rearrange the furniture and allow students a little more flexibility in how they sit. Let me say, and I say it in every venue, there is no intention that we're overnight changing out the furniture in all classrooms, nor that we ever will necessarily be able to do that. The furniture that we have in many cases is in acceptable condition and has life left in it. However, in certain cases, rather than buying that old style again, we're going to start doing some hand-me-down furniture within and allowing teachers to apply for more modernized furniture through a grant application process. We're in the process right now, and some of you have been part of it because you saw, I think it was even 2 weeks ago when we were here, we had some sample future-ready furniture there. Some of it's okay, some of it we actually think we can do a little bit better. There's a team of us right now kind of sorting through some catalogs and talking to other districts and trying to get some recommendations, and we're going to get some more samples in. We're trying to put together packages that teachers, if they apply for a grant, could then say, I'm applying for elementary option 3. I would like 4 wobble chairs and 4 bean bags in my classroom, or I would like desks that reconfigure or chairs that are on wheels. And then as they write their grant application, they can be identifying the ways that this will enhance and create a more engaging classroom. It comes with a significant investment, right? Because furniture is not inexpensive, particularly the type of furniture we're looking to purchase that we hope will be durable. And in these early years, as we're trying it out, that's one of the things in particular we're going to be taking a look at. So it's really an investment in engagement, and one of the ways that we're looking to do it is by offering some opportunity to access some additional, more modernized furniture.
Any questions from Elizabeth? The second one, it's a neat project, and just to give board some perspective, I came here from Mahana. Mahana has a marching band. So one of the first questions people said to me, hey, are we going to have a marching band at Shen? And I thought, why wouldn't we have a marching band at Shen? Then I realized that, okay, there are a lot of factors why we don't have a marching band at Shen. So this is not a marching band. So for people who think about a marching band, it's a pep band version, and certainly our student body knows because we've had different kind of iteration of it. So Mr. Colin, who's the athletic director, is working with Mr. Roselli, and we hope that come September, you'll have a pep band that goes to all the wide variety of sport events and do neat things. But more important, it's building school spirit and community. It's also giving students an opportunity to perform and showcase their talents. We have no idea how much it's going to cost because it's based on magnitude, but we want to have some funds to be able to start the process rolling and see where we go from there. So again, it's a small amount of money, but could have a significant impact in terms of building that school culture. As you know, that we have been really working on over the years, and I think it's working very well in many instances. So we're kind of excited about that proposition. So again, pause if there are any questions on that.
Is there hope to move towards a marching band?
I'm not going to be that hopeful and put it out there right now, Mrs. Hopwood. So who knows? We may get excited. Who knows? People get excited about it. The second piece I want to highlight this piece right here. We've been focused on primary grades for a lot, and we figured if we have some additional funds, how do we put some additional funds towards some of the things that we're doing in primary grade readiness. And so this right now is under our professional development, but it's a pretty broad category. So it could be everything from professional development to instructional materials. What will happen after budget adoption, Dr. Wood with a group of folks will kind of get together and see what's the best way to spend that, but targeted towards our primary grade as supplemental resources to what they're doing now. So I think someone asked, is this going to be expansion of EDK? EDK is looked at in a whole different venue. We look at EDK as a part of our enrollment and see what capacity, because it's a teaching capacity piece, and we look at that in a whole different way. So again, this is another indication that as a school district, we're trying to target some resources at some places, again, that we can be impactful without a huge, significant expenditure of funds. And we think this is one of those areas that we can really enhance the quality of our primary education program. And so this is one of those areas that we're looking with those additional funds. So again, if there are no questions, we'll continue that piece of it. So those are like the three the three areas that we actually made adjustments to. This, I just want to highlight this. We have in our budget right now a transfer line of capital fund. However, one of the things that every year we're trying to figure out what are different ways we try to maximize, or should I say leverage our resources. In other words, we're looking to from there, I think it's $700,000 now that's allocated in that line to budget, or should I say account for 100,000 of it under this capital outlay, which then become building aidable. So the state of New York allows certain categories of funds and certain amounts, and so we want to tap into that new opportunity and have this become a building aidable piece. So as we do what we call mini projects, this portion of it can fall under the building aid piece. And so basically for every dollar we spend, we get 60 cents back in return. So again, this is one of those examples of how do we use funds and try to repurpose it in a way that we can maximize those revenues moving forward. Very simple thing, it's a budget code switch. It's not new money to the budget. It's going from one budget code to another budget code. They want to take advantage of that moving forward. And this actually came up, kudos to our new Director of Operations, Steve West, who came to us and said, hey, you know, we should look into doing this. And we thought, okay, do your legwork. He did his legwork, and this is the result of doing legwork. So one conversation with someone with a new perspective turned $100,000 into $160,000 of use, when you really think about it from that perspective. So we're pretty excited about that proposition moving forward. Again, moving forward with the budget itself, again, I'm just going to highlight there's some quick changes, not a lot of changes. Nothing to this change, nothing was impacted in these particular lines. This particular line was impacted, the equipment, because of the additional furniture piece that Dr. Wood just spoke about. The other contractual was impacted by the piece that we put on the professional development. Those things fall on that piece of it. So that's where you see those differences are coming, making a change in the budget itself. Again, I try to highlight those things in yellow. And then the bottom line of our budget, when we last presented the budget to you, was $177,546. Now it's $177,729. So that's where that difference is in the budget that comes up. And last time we presented was 2.2, now it's 2.33. So you can see the impact of that additional funds going to the budget sequence as we move forward from the last time we presented. These shares are very similar as part of our goal to try to have very proportional from year to year, as you see, in terms of where the funds are going. Those three categories of funding. The average, 5-year average, right around 2.11. Last time we spoke was a 2.08. So slight adjustment to that average with that new 2.33 into that 5-year sequence. So again, not a significant shift since the last time we spoke. And on the revenue side, so again, this is a total. This is where to recalculate our tax cap because of that piece change. And so you see the change in the tax cap piece of it. Where the tax cap budget would have generated 3.25 last time we spoke. Now it's 3.35, and our budget is 2.23. So that's where you see the difference in those two comparison points since the last time we spoke as well. So just so you have a fair picture of it. The piece that I'm just going to skip. This was the same budget number before. So anywhere there's a change, I try to highlight where the changes occur, so you see where those things fall out. The last piece I want to highlight is on the revenue side, where we got the additional funds. You see here at the bottom line with state aid. So our state aid went up slightly. So the last time we spoke, the state aid was at 47,803, and now it's 47,986. So the difference is that amount that came into the sequence. And that share was 26.92, and that's 27%. So again, not a significant shift. And what I keep saying, not a significant shift. We think how we're using the additional funds is a very wise use of the funds. Minimal impact on the tax levy. In fact, no impact on the tax levy because it's a one-for-one, but yet give us an opportunity to, again, expand programs and services offered to our student body. So as someone said to me earlier this evening, said, wow, this budget has a little bit of everything for everyone. And I was like, well, it has a little bit of everything for every kid. And that's our goal. You know, we want to try to hit kids in their different domains and try to do different things to make the school experience even that much more exciting and engaging for our students. So this essentially is our budget bottom line, and we're asking the board to adopt the budget tonight. Mrs. Stevenson.
I would never question your finances. I never would do that. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I know you rolled up to 27%, but I see everything stays at like 1.3 or 26.2? Why would you roll it to 27 and not keep it at 26.2?
No,
I know
it's just because, it's just how, it's so we,
Okay,
we
I
would've-
never
it's a
questioned.
rounding off piece of it. And quite frankly, if we would have rounded next to 26.92, it would have been 27.
Okay,
But the pure number was
Yeah.
20.
okay. I know, all right.
Exactly.
Just throwing it.
I appreciate your,
All right, I know, I
your attention
know.
to the details.
All right.
So again, very, very similar budget that we presented last time to the board of 177.
Oliver, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
A quick question. So looking, wow.
You scared me, I forgot you were there.
First of all, my head looks really big on this thing. This is amazing. No, in all seriousness, when you look at the budget from a real property tax increase, we're actually going to have a decrease of approximately 0.6%, if I remember, which, and if I'm jumping ahead, then tell me and I'll stop. But my question is, when's the last time we had a property tax decrease as a result of our budget?
So we haven't gone out at this stage with a decreased number showing. And we're fortunate because it's a convergence of things happening. One, the valuation in the school district as a whole is growing. And while the valuation is growing, we've been pretty status quo holding expenditures. And so when you see that, the growth benefit goes to our taxpayers. So we have had, after the budget, when we run the numbers and do for tax bills, people have had reduction in their taxes, but we're pretty confident, barring some ridiculous shift with equalization rates in August, that most people should see minimal, if not a reduction in their tax rates for the coming year. So we're pretty excited about that, and I'm cautious to say in your tax bills, because if the value of your house goes up, that's something we can't control. And so sometimes people say, well, the superintendent said I'm going to see a reduction in my tax bill. Well, you may not, because if you happen to live in a neighborhood that the value of our houses are increasing exponentially, that's great if you plan to sell it, but it may not be as great if you plan to stay there. But from a tax rate perspective, we anticipate tax rate should have a pretty flat line trajectory for the coming year.
And I think that this is a feel-good moment for the district when the community looks at us from the standpoint of we had the opportunity to put a higher budget out there and keep books at that tax cap rate, but we chose to be responsible with our money and build a budget that gives our kids exactly what we need, but at the same time is fiscally responsible to our community. And that is a win-win, not only for the kids, but the community.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Any other questions, comments from the board?
I just appreciate you sending us the detail, breaking that down. It gave us a chance to digest it. So hearing it again, it's crystal clear, at least in my opinion.
I think I can recite it. I'm pretty sure. We got this. We got it.
How about it?
And the last piece I just want to point out at your tables is a quick one-page flyer that after tonight, after the board adoption, Mrs. DeFiciani will start with communication magic. What I mean by that, we have a lot of users, for example, of our facilities, that between Mrs. Cullen, who does our facilities use, we send information out to our building use, we send information out to our faculty and staff. We have links on the website, so people have this quick one-pager that capture the essence of the school, of the budget. It's not a budget, it's not an official budget newsletter, it's just a simple one-pager, and it's also the one-pager as we do the road show. We use to hand out just so people have a general gist of the things that's in the budget as we move forward. So please look at that, and it hopefully makes sense to you, hopefully capture what you believe the budget is about. And it's clear because we want to be clear for people who may not have gone through the experience of going through the various steps that you have as a board as well. So please, if you have any comments on that, we'll be more than open to hear your comments as we move forward. So after tonight's adoption, the process starts rolling very quickly in terms of roadshow presentations. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd.
He's going to stay on.
He's got a vote.
I'll turn it away. I'll turn him so we can, there we go, like he's sitting in his chair.
Todd, I think that adds 10 pounds to you, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, God, I can. Ouch. I'll never video conference then. Ouch.
Let's shift over. Let's shift over to policy and regulations first reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So tonight, being presented for first reading are policies that went to policy review in March. And again, most of them are related to finances, and then one related to student physicals. Any questions?
Just a comment, I thought the discussions we had in the policy session were very beneficial in terms of, one of the things we ask our students to do is to be leaders. And leadership is often, advocating and saying things and carrying a message, but also leadership is managing money. And one of the things we need to do is ensure that we have the right rules, the right policies. I clearly think we do have them here. But really making sure we pay attention to that, because we do expect leaders, not only parents, but definitely in the high school level. We have treasurers, and they, when you look at what they do in terms of bringing money in for certain events and fundraising, they're carrying quite a workload. And we expect that they do it right, because part of doing it right is to ensure you use that money for the great cause you're advocating. So, we want to put that in the policy. I think it's there. If you're going to look through and read it, make sure you keep that in mind, that this is not just about the rules and controlling money, but it's developing leaders who are responsible, because that's a critical component of a lot of the things that students do. So.
And kudos to Kathy Jason, her staff.
Okay. And go ahead, Jim.
It doesn't relate specifically to these policies, but a general question. We're talking about policies that promote inclusivity and diversity, and then a review of our own policies to see that they reflect that steering policy. Have we begun that process?
Started that today, Mr. DeLallo. That was my task today.
Oh.
Yeah, I earned my keep today, spent a lot of time on that. Yes, and we'll be responding also to NISBA with some suggestions for having NISBA carry it out from a statewide perspective as well. I'll share it with you once we get some draft of it. Yep.
Speaking of which, the policy that was referenced by Michael Lebolt on tobacco use. So I know we're going to be talking about that tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, in certain vaping.
Yes.
We already did. Yep.
But I didn't see that feedback from them in the policy that was shared.
No, they want to insert the vaping piece under that piece of it. We'll show it tomorrow when we get to it.
Oh, we will.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
right, there's pieces included.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Suggestions. Thank you.
So now we'll go on to consent items. The first one is treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to bring this forward? Ms. Hoffman, second. Ms. Miller? Any comments or questions on the treasurer's report? If not, all in favor? And do we see Todd voting? Is he voting?
Mr. Gilbert?
Are you voting? Todd?
Sorry, I am on, and I vote yes.
Yes.
Okay. And for minutes, we can combine 1 and 3 because everybody attended those. So motion to adopt minutes 1 and 2, March 5th and March 26th. Mrs. Stevenson, second Mrs. Rajat. Any questions? All in favor? And I see Mr. Miller voting
Yes.
in favor. Okay. And let's go to March 12th. I think 2 will abstain. Can I get a motion on March 12th minutes? Mrs. Hoffman, second Mrs. Miller.
Who's abstaining?
Mrs. Miller and Mr. Gilbert are abstaining.
I'll abstain, yes.
Yes, okay. Any comments on those minutes? If not, all in favor? Okay. And so let's go over to action items, business items. The first one is the adoption of the proposed school budget. Quite a bit has already been put in front of us. Can I have a motion to adopt the school budget? First, Mrs. Hoffman.
Mr. Gilbert.
Second, Mr. Gilbert. Okay, any other comments or questions on the budget? A lot of work going into this. Thank you very much for the deliberate thinking and explanations. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so we have everyone voted positive for that. Next up is the adoption of the New York State Property Tax Report Card, and we have had a detailed presentation on this in the past. Motion on the property tax report card. Go ahead, Mr. DeLallo first. Any second? Mrs. Stevens, second. Comments, questions?
It relates. It's not exactly on target. You know that the state legislature passed a permanent tax levy cap. That's both reality and an illusion. No legislature, no Board of Education can pass legislation that locks in future boards or future legislatures. It's always subject to change. That's reality. But on the other hand, there is the illusion that they create that you can't do this, and they will play up big the fact that, oh, we can't do that. We just passed this, and it's permanent. So there are definitely things about the tax levy cap that need to be addressed, that are problematic. And I don't think we can afford to let them get away with the idea that permanent is permanent. The actual basic principle of, the 2% cap and COLA being the determinant of the actual thing, well, that's not going to go away, and I don't think anybody's going to change it, except maybe we could say 2% flat so we can have more predictability. But the fact of the matter is those things are pretty much locked in stone because there's no political will. But the other stuff I think we can nibble away at, and I don't think we should give up on it.
Great.
All right, so we have comments and questions. All in favor for the adoption of the property tax report card?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Let's combine 3 and 4, 2 bids as well as 2 contracts. Can I get a motion on this one? Mr. Rajat first, second Mrs. Miller. Any comments or questions on 3 and 4 bids and contracts?
I didn't know if there was a typo in the one special ed contract with, because it referenced 2017 and 2018
Michelle?
rates. If you pull it up, there's 2 contracts. Actually, you know what? If you see on the first page, I think it shows it in the first page.
This page?
No, the first one. Yeah, so it talks about 2017, 2018 rates being finalized. Is that a typo, or are we really one full year back?
This should be for,
One of the things that happens is that they set rates and then they have rate adjustments after the school year. So I'm assuming that it's referring to that. We're continuously back paying on tuition bills, even 15, 16, 16, 17, based on that rate adjustment from state ed.
yeah, so it's, 2018 is based upon the 17.8 that they quote, and then they finalize those.
Okay, so
Yeah,
they're finalizing
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's always a year lag.
But they hadn't finalized it. They said it will be
Yeah, so,
revised.
yeah,
Okay.
prospective rates, yeah.
Yep.
It's,
All right.
it's a interesting process.
Thank you.
Good question.
Any more comments, questions on 3 and 4? If not, all in favor? Todd? Okay, so all voted. Let's go to action item number 5, disposal of buses parts. Can I have a motion on this one? Mrs. Stevenson first, Mr. Rajat second. Any other comments, questions? If not,
It was a shocking long list. I was very surprised.
yep,
by it.
long list, but I'm glad we're getting that stuff
That's true. We're getting rid of
off our
stuff.
hands and creating some cash, so. All in favor? Mr. Gilbert? Yes. He voted yes. And last one, with gratitude, scholarship, and local grant donations. Motion on this one, Mr. Rajat. Any second? Mrs. Stevenson? Any comments, questions on this? If not, all in favor? Okay, with gratitude, okay. Let's go to action item B, students, acceptance of special education placements. Mrs. Mylod.
Good evening. I have the recommendations from the Committee on Preschool and School Age Special Education, both for 1819 and 1920.
Can I have a motion on this? Mrs. Miller first, Mrs. Rajat second. Any comments, questions? If not, all in favor?
And Michelle, I just wanted to say, I know with all the annual reviews, it's been quite crazy for all that.
Yes, and this is
also
not the
interested-
end.
Then that's not the end,
Right.
but just to recognize that,
you.
I know it takes a lot with all the staff that are involved in that. So
Thank you.
thank you to all of them.
And let's go personnel. Back to Mrs. Bush. Okay.
Along with the tenure recommendations and the retirements, we have a modification of a position or appointment. So Mr. Lucas LeBaire is being recommended to move from the class assistant principal to an associate principal. So it's the same tenure area, but it is a promotion, and he is here this evening. So I'd like to recommend Lucas for that position.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Accept your shake his hand?
Yeah.
But do the motion first. and then we go.
Yeah, okay. Let's have a, come on up. Let's have a motion on staffing requisitions. Mrs. Rajat first, Mrs. Oppen second. Any other comments and questions? If not, all in favor? Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. And last item is a second reading of policies and regulations. Back to Mrs. Carmen.
So the policies for second reading tonight went to first reading, in March. Any questions regarding that?
Can I have a motion for this? Mrs. Stevenson, second Mrs. Miller. Any other comments? If not, all in favor? Okay, motion passes. At this point, we're going to go back to public comments. Does anybody have any public comments that start off with residents? I don't see any residents. Anybody at the table? Mrs. Hoffman?
I was just going to recognize the passing of a bus driver and cafeteria monitor, Mr. Collette, and send my condolences to the family, to his family and friends.
Thank you. All right, any other public comments? If not, quick policy review. I have a meeting tomorrow to go through what's in the link, so we'll continue. I think we have some adjustments based on the student comments on vaping, and so we'll proceed in that fashion. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Just one thing,
Hold on a second, go
just a
ahead.
note, next meeting, I will be out of town on the 16th, so I will not be at this meeting. I'll be
Okay.
in New York City for work.
Thank you. Let's go back to motion to adjourn. Mrs. Hoffman, Mrs. Miller, second. Any comments, questions? If not, all in favor? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
Todd, sweet dreams.